So what do we mean by the partnership between property rights and the public sector? Partnerships, meaning that there are two parties that are choosing to work together or are fortunately working together in order to create an outcome. And in this situation, we're talking about a partnership that led to the dislocation of indigenous peoples. When you think about what you may have heard about the relocation of Native Americans through the course of American history, that was really about moving them from their land to other lands so that their land could be owned by whites. Property rights have often been used as a requirement for voting rights. The ownership of real estate, the ownership of land, and most people refer to it more as land ownership, was really a requirement for having the right to vote in your community, being a citizen. Only people who were landowners at some times were considered truly citizens of the United States. And then there have been laws against Asian Americans owning property in the United States. That has happened in the 1800s. It's happening today. It happened in World War II. It's happening today. All of these property rights and their partnership with the public sector to control economic growth and also the stability of communities and the rights to be a citizen all were executed through land ownership and real estate. Have you ever heard about a deed restriction? These deed restrictions would say that if you sold your house, you could not sell it to someone who wasn't white. It's amazing how many people actually don't realize that their deeds, if they have maybe inherited a home from a family or it has run down through family generations, may have a restriction that says it cannot be sold to someone who is not white. It's easy to fix those things, but that was done as a way to make sure that communities stayed white and that you would not have an integrated community just because they could afford to be there. And then we have the creation of public housing. Public housing was intended to provide relatively well-priced opportunities for families to live in communities. It was created with the point of providing housing not necessarily for people of color, but to provide housing for immigrants that had moved into various communities. But in order to build this housing, in many instances, the land on which they were built was based on the destruction of an integrated community that was already there. That partnership created segregated communities where there had been integrated neighborhoods before. That partnership created segregation. How was that partnership secured? Or how would we say it was codified? It was codified through the passing of laws. It was reinforced through policy. And it was also custom. And while there may have been some who were arguing against the legitimacy of those sort of rules and policies, they were very much the norm. And until the 1964 passing of the Fair Housing Act, until we were able to actually identify the negative impacts of this partnership on communities, those actions prevailed. We are living with so much of that now. One of the key examples in how this partnership was codified, or how it was really what we're living today, is when we look at the development of suburban communities versus urban communities. We'll explore that in our next section.